for sure. Okay, so we are talking about the lead out, and it's not a new concept. It's just very, very timely. And Ohio's kids are showing elevated lead levels at more than twice the national rate right now. So there's been this big, I guess, awareness that has come about because of all these reports, which I'm sure started in Michigan a couple years ago, in Flint, Michigan in 2016. And we all know what happened in Flint, Michigan and Benton Harbor and what's still happening. But it is not new. Even though we took the lead out of paint in 1978 and the lead out of unleaded gasoline, lead is still very much a part of our environment. So we need to raise awareness and, put this back on forefront as far as, testing goes. Did I lose people? I think maybe.
I'm still here.
Oh, no, you're still there. Sorry, I'm just trying to, there we go. Trying to figure it all out. So Molina Healthcare and COAD, we came together to develop a PowerPoint for our community, and Kevin McCoy actually was a part of, the abatement process and working in his role down at COAD in Athens. Correct, Kevin? You're in Athens?
Yes.
Okay. And so we are raising awareness and advocating for children to be lead tested, and to also for child care providers to be aware of what they can do in their own environments to protect children from lead. So the very first thing that I want you guys to do is to go ahead and go through this. And you have this PowerPoint. I don't know if you printed things out or not. This is a handout. This is handout 1, and it's a pre-assessment. And if you would just go through this assessment, and then we will go over the answers together, okay? And let me see what you guys know to start with. Okay, does everybody have time to go through this? Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. I need to go back. I told you I'm going to be a little bit I need to go backwards. I need to go back. There we go. Okay. Okay. So what did you guys come up with? Shoot, so sorry. What did you guys come up with? The first one, what is lead? And you guys can unmute yourselves. We can have, it could be very interactive. Everybody, I'm sorry, what was that? Right. It's a metal. It occurs naturally in the environment. It's a poison. It's an additive and man-made products. And it's also found in our drinking water. Those are some of the places. Was anybody surprised by that? Where it's found? Okay. So 2, lead paint was banned for residential use in 1978. Is that true or false?
True.
Yes, that is true. However, our housing stock, and I'll let Kevin speak to this a little bit more. We still have a lot of houses that my house was built in 1926. And it's, I'm living in it now. So it was built before that, it was renovated. And I think like more than 40% of the housing stock. Lead is an additive in gasoline.
Not anymore, is it?
Well,
Yeah,
Not
that is false. They took the lead out of gasoline. So it's unleaded gasoline.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure about diesel fuel and like what additives are in that. But for our regular use for cars, it's unleaded. The lead can be found in water, toys, soil, peeling paint, or all of the above.
I love it.
I love it.
All of it. And that's kind of, we speaks to number one. So number 5, how do children become poisoned by lead?
All of the above.
All of the above. Yep. And this is, again, we're going to talk about all of this. What is lead poisoning?
Yes. There's poisoning.
Well,
Maybe
what
and
did
it's E.
yeah. I mean, I would be, I'm horrible. I like everybody to have success, but it's A, B, and C. And then a lead test is the only way to know if a child has lead poisoning. True or false? True. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're on the very first slide. What is lead for those of you who went ahead? And Kevin, if you wouldn't mind talking about what lead is.
Sure.
Thank you.
Lead is a basic element. If you remember from school and science class, the elemental chart, lead is under the heavy metals, number 82. Its initials are PB, and it's Latin for plumbum. And that sounds a lot like plumbing, doesn't it? Rome, and we'll get into this as far as the history, but Rome and other ancient cultures used lead for various things, and one of them was for their plumbing. Again, it is a natural element, so one of the problems with it is we cannot destroy it. So no matter what we do, as far as, especially with the housing stock, we end up creating dust, deteriorated paint, and housing debris from renovation and construction creates dust. So one of the things I tell my students is that if you get nothing else from this, just remember that dust is the primary issue with children and with adults as well. Lead does not occur naturally in its elemental form. It's mined. Ancient people, like I was mentioning earlier, has used it. I think one of the 6,000 BC is one of the oldest man-made objects out of lead. It has to be mined, but it's easy to get to in some parts of the world. It virtually sits right on top of the ground. It's kind of like coal. Some places it has to be mined, and other places it can be just a little scraping, just several inches down, and they can get it. Lead becomes toxic once refined and made into man-made products. So as it's coming out of the ground, it's really not toxic. It's the form of it at that point is called galena. But once we take it into the smelting operations and the other things that we do with lead, that's when we change its form and it turns into a toxin. So it is recognized by all of the major industrialized countries as a neurological toxin. Let's see, lead has been used for thousands of years. I've already mentioned that. The toxicity was recognized in antiquity. You had people like Hippocrates, who is known as, like the father of modern medicine, even though he was around 600 BC or something. The doctors and I believe nurses, they have to take the Hippocratic Oath. That's who that's named after. He was writing and studying it. The Romans, they knew it was an issue. Unfortunately, they didn't they knew it was an issue, is why they would make their slaves deal with it. A lot of historians, or some historians, feel that part of the fall of the Roman Empire was due to lead exposure. There are famous aqueducts that they would store water in the Alps. They would capture water and snow, was made out of wood. The tanks themselves, just like what we have now, similar, but then the water lines were made out of wood, but they were lined with lead. So it's kind of like what happened in Flint, Michigan. So as the water would sit, it would just absorb the lead. So initially the slaves were the ones dealing with it, and then the aristocrats, because they were the ones who had indoor plumbing. Let's see, many countries restricted the use of lead in paint. In 1925, there was a international treaty at a convention. The United States did not take part in that. So European countries, mostly, they haven't had a lead issue for a long time. Part of the reasoning also is they had 2 world wars on their continent, so a lot of the building stocks were obliterated, were leveled. So the United States did not take part.
I think that's a very interesting point that just bringing in that history about World War II and how, there was so much destruction with their housing stocks. I mean, it's also very sad, but that they're a little bit farther ahead, even though they have been in existence longer than the United States. Okay, is that all to add?
Yeah, that's all I have. Yeah.
All right.
Unless somebody else has a question, comment.
Anybody have any questions? Nope. Okay. What I want to show you now is a lead safe toolkit. This actually is geared towards child care center owners, which we consider you center owners, type B, type A. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on this. I'm going to have to do a new share. So just 1 second so that everybody can see it. Can you see it now? Okay. So what we're doing, what we're looking at is a lead safe toolkit for center-based childcare. And there is from the National Center for Healthy Housing. It really does look at where lead is found. Lead is in paint, lead is in drinking water, soil, consumer products. But this is a good website to go to, have videos that you can watch. And there are things that we do to protect children from lead. I'm not sure where you are with your housing, but I know that we're going to talk about that. But, one of the things we do is we maintain our home to minimize lead hazards like chipping, cracking, or peeling paint. And at the end, or probably before I leave tonight, I'm going to be able to go ahead and forward this to you. I will forward this link to you and other links that I have chosen to grab things from. It is a nice resource when you're looking at doing renovations and the importance of how to do renovations. So I just wanted to bring that up there right now. And I'm going to go back to PowerPoint, excuse me.
While you do that, I'm going to throw in a quick blurb for the National
Okay.
Center for Healthy Housing. They are an
Okay.
awesome organization. We're a training provider for them sometimes. But
Oh, I didn't realize. Okay.
yeah, they also have some great information on their sites about asthma triggers for children and other health and safety as far as falls prevention, things like that. So it's a wonderful, and as Mindy was saying, their work with lead has been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud to be associated with them.
Very good. And I think that is something, and that, we can't fight this problem on our own. And it's really important that we start with ourselves, but having resources is the best way to begin to getting the word out, and also sharing it with our young families and sharing it with grandparents, and just bringing that awareness about again. One of the things I've thought about is what is old is new again. It's just like when we were going through the beginning of the new virus that came along, and here we had to get back to some basics about health and how to stay healthy. So this is the same thing. There's a new generation that we need to keep protecting and advocating for. Thank you, Kevin, for that. And would you mind talking about some more of the history and uses of lead?
Sure.
Thank you.
The two major sources of lead for children in the United States was paint and also leaded gasoline. Lead paint was banned for residential use in the United States in 1978. That's a fact, but one of the issues that's not mentioned is that it was banned for production for homes and child occupied facilities and any kind of product for a child. They could not manufacture it after December 31st, 1977. However, they were allowed to sell it, what they had been producing up until midnight on New Year's Eve of 77. So it's not too uncommon to find houses that has some lead in them that was built in 1978 and 79. However, the law is very specific that a contractor does not have to work lead safe if the house was built in 1978 or newer. Going back to the gasoline, the tetraethyl lead was first added to gasoline in 1921. And believe it or not, it wasn't put in there for performance. It was done to quiet the engine. The motors back then were so loud, and they discovered that tetraethyl lead would quiet the engine. They called it engine knock. The chemicals in the tetraethyl was lethal. The workers, many of them were dying in droves as they were learning how to protect the workers long before OSHA. So it was really an industrial, or the industry itself was governing it. The stuff was so able to absorb into the skin. So workers were, frankly, they were dropping dead sometimes on the production floors. And the ones that weren't dying, the lead, along with the other chemicals, were affecting the brain, causing insanity, basically. They're having to be institutionalized. All the lead and gasoline pass through the tailpipes of the car. So, as I mentioned earlier, lead is a natural element. We can't destroy it. So it would go through the combustion cycle of the engine with all the burning and explosions, the pistons and all of that, but it would still be there. It would shoot out the tailpipe and contaminate, you name it, the roads, driveways, parking lots, yards. So the lead I want to back up just a little bit. 1972, legislation was passed to ban lead in paint in 78, but also to ban lead in gasoline by 1990. So those of us who are of that age remember in the 70s and 80s pulling up to the gas pumps, and it wasn't this where you had ultra and all these buttons you had to choose from what kind of gas you wanted. You had either leaded or unleaded. That was your options. So in 90, it was finally phased out. And because of that, research was showing, and they were phasing it out before 1990. The reason they gave it so long was because of the cars that had been produced that was in need of this. So that's why they allowed it to stay in production longer. But research showed that between 1976 and 1994, blood concentration in children dropped from 13.7 micrograms per deciliter to 3.2. So it dropped over 10 micrograms. And Case Western Reserve University in the Cleveland area, they're the ones that did some research on it. And it was determined that it was a direct result of lead being removed from gasoline. That's all I have on that, Mindy.
Okay, okay, that's fine. I'm so sorry. I was, trying to keep up with a question I had, but so basically, I think it was interesting too, even though what year was it taken out of the gasoline?
1990.
1990. So, I remember as a little girl, and I probably shouldn't say this, but, I remember smelling it and loving that smell and inhaling the vapors and everything. And, working around, I was born in 1971. So, that was leaded paint, removal. And but it's just interesting how all of these environmental hazards come up, and how they truly are toxic. It's young bodies and young minds. Okay, thank you, Kevin. Let me see, we're going to go to the next one. Oops. Okay, so this one is, we have a video with this one, and I'm going to hit the link, and as soon as we get it up, I'm going to share it again. Okay. And we're going to start watching it. Can everybody see the video?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
I can't hear it though.
You can't hear it at all?
No.
Okay. Oh boy. Okay, let me see here. Molly stopped. So I can't hear. Okay. Kevin, any thoughts on that?
No, on my screen, I don't see anything where it could be muted or unmuted.
Okay, so I apologize for this. Let me see here. Where's it? Can you hear that?
It's not.
Okay, let me
still
see here.
paused.
Okay, let me try this again. Can you guys hear anything? It's still paused.
No.
Nothing. Oh my gosh. Okay.
It seems like they're talking, but you can't hear them.
Thank you. That we're trying to figure that out. I lost my tech person. She already left. Let's see here. Oh boy. This stinks. I feel like putting a reaction in. Let me see. Not going to spend too much time, but they are good. And
I just saw unmute.
I know. It was unmuted again. Did everybody turn up their computers? I don't know if that would work or not. About that. Anything?
No.
No.
Oh boy.
It's in a different language too.
Well, the
So we can't-
captions are in Spanish, but
Yeah.
if you could hear them, it would be in English.
Right, right. I was thinking we could just read it, but you have to know Spanish.
That would be nice. Let me just give me 1 second here, and I apologize for this. This is just this is where I need my tech person. Let's see if this helps. And if it doesn't help, then I'm just gonna have to, is that my microphone? Did I go up? Let me see. Let me go to video. No, I'm not. Okay. Let's try it one more time, and then if not, anybody hear that?
No.
No. Okay. Unfortunately, that's just the way it goes. Let me hit my chat. I can't hear or see anything. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to go back to the PowerPoint, and we're just going to unfortunately have to skip the videos because I don't think the gal that was helping Molly is on anymore. But let me see if I can.
Might be able to email them to us maybe to watch later.
Yeah. It's only 17 minutes, believe it or not. There's some really good information in there. Yeah, she's not even on the meeting anymore. There's some really great information about doing home renovations. And, you know, Kevin, I wasn't there for the creation of this original PowerPoint, but I'm assuming they chose this PowerPoint because the fact that we really look at, because as small business owners living in our home, and we're in a field that there are really small revenue margins, that we're going to do some of the work ourselves. Would you agree, Kevin?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a great video, and it is for DIYers. I'm assuming your home, your daycares are in your homes.
Mine
so-
is.
Okay. And I can walk us through some of that because I believe a lot of these PowerPoints can touch on some of the, that's why it leads into modules as far as how to protect yourself, how to clean up. When we do a class with contractors, we don't show a contractor how to change out a window, for example. They have those skills. We show them how to do it in a lead safe manner, how to prevent the spread of lead dust and debris, and then most importantly, how to clean up after themselves. They don't leave a hazard. We really haven't gotten into it yet, but the lead dust is invisible. I usually, to folks who are new to this information, I usually try to compare it to asbestos. Asbestos is a fiber, but a lot of it is invisible as well. And that's something a lot of people can relate to, or they know a little more about it, even if it's from those mesothelioma commercials from the lawyers. So I think we might be able to muddle through, Mindy.
Okay. I wish I could show, yeah, I watched it all today. It's only 17 minutes, but they do show the importance of cleaning up and, you know, the importance of when you are doing home reno. And it brought me back to when my son was just a little guy, maybe 5-6 months. And we were doing some renovation and I had to tape everything off, and I would only, I would put things in like a bucket. And when I would go out and to get a drink of water or something, I was very, very careful. I had everything. I was able to have everything taped off with plastic and everything. But so
Yeah,
far,
containment is
yes, it's very important.
it is. It's extremely important. I put it up there with the cleaning part, because if you have adequate containment, not even the best of the best, but even if it's just adequate, it'll really minimize what you have to clean up. The video, you can find it on YouTube. It's called Don't Spread the Lead, I think, or Get the Lead Out. And it's they focus also on the children's rooms a lot.
Yeah, I could even share that on my closed daycare page to parents.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That's a really great idea. It's a really great idea. And, the other part about that is I will send that link again on a links page where I grabbed a lot of information. So that'll just be sent as an attachment. And then everybody can check it out. But Molly is back. So I'm asking her if she could give me a hand. And, we can see what we can do because it's not a lot, even if we watched it in its entirety. It's not a long video, but it is worthwhile to watch. Okay, now we're here to the legislative and legal aspects. And again, Kevin, if you wouldn't mind speaking on this, that would be terrific. Thank you.
Sure, you see on the screen there, that's the bureaucratic alphabet soup of who all's involved at a large scale. There's other entities that's not on here, like Medicaid, for example, but at a large scale, this is now those initials, the RLBPHR, that stands for the Residential Lead-Based Paint Hazard Reduction Act of 1992. So that was, well after 1978, but there was still a problem, still a huge problem. There was I guess a culmination, if you will, of events in the late 80s when President Bush Sr. Was president. The White House was going under renovation and their dog, Millie, was lead poisoned. The law went into effect in 92, so the workers who were renovating the White House they weren't breaking any laws. But they, who wasn't tested? The humans. Yeah. So also HUD, you see the third bullet point down. HUD was having trouble finding in some areas. They are the largest landlord in the nation. They're having problems finding insurance companies that would cover some of their properties. Lead was one of the issues, but there was others. There was health and safety issues going on. So there was these events that were happening right around the same time, and it kind of got Congress and others interested in kind of like the Flint, Michigan thing. It brought it back up. So they passed this act, the Residential Lead-Based Paint Hazard Reduction Act of 1992. So it told the legislation told the EPA they were tasked with developing educational resources for training individuals who would be involved in lead hazard reduction activities. I have some, if we get the video going, you'll see, I think they used this or they showed this in the video. This is for homeowners, just advice, and it is from the EPA. There's another one. This is for contractors. A little bit too fast. It's called Renovate Right. This is another one. It's from the EPA. I believe the video that we're trying to show was sponsored or paid for by the EPA. So they do have some information out there. The EPA was told to create and then to enforce what's known as the RRP rule, which we'll talk about here in just I think a couple slides. But moving on, HUD, as I mentioned, they were told to establish guidelines for lead safe work within their properties. And just as a coincidence, because of what I do, these are the guidelines. Within that, and those are the state laws. The state of Ohio has adopted the HUD guidelines.
Looks like my rule book.
It is. It's basically it's like a code book, but it has each chapter has its own trade, if you will. Chapter 5, it's for risk assessors. Chapter 12, it's for abatement contractors. So HUD did, as you can see that, HUD developed those. They also have some grant programs. So even if it's property that they don't own, but HUD money or government money, period, is going into privately owned property, then that kicks in what's called the lead safe housing rule. So like weatherization, if you're familiar with some of those programs, That's U.S. Department of Energy money, but it's still federal money. There's a program at HUD funds called CHIP, and it's not CHIP like with ODH or what you might be familiar with. It stands for Community Housing Impact Preservation. They had to make it as complicated as they could, I guess. But what that program does, they can go into a privately owned home. It is income based, but they can make the house safe for the people to continue to live there. They have a priority list like weatherization does, seniors, families with young children, handicap. They have priorities, and again, it's income based. But they make the house safe. They basically bring it up to code. Some people they get over $40,000 worth of work done in their house, new roof, wiring, electrical wiring, plumbing. So while the contractors are working in these houses doing this work, they have to work lead safe. They have to by law, and there's a third party that'll come in, and I'll talk a little bit about it later, that will check their work, make sure they clean, because they have a tendency, some contractors, of leaving an environmental human health hazard. Let's see, the next bullet point is OSHA. Oh, our friends at OSHA. They were told to establish regulations. They did actually early on for general industry, but in '92, they were told to develop lead safe practices for construction and renovation in particular. The CDC, they're responsible, of course, for the health and such, but they set the level for what is a lead poisoned child. Basically, they don't call it that. It's just through their research they suggest. So, for example, I'm going to throw some numbers at you with some units of measure. So, like 5 micrograms per deciliter is a lead poisoned child in Ohio, whereas CDC refers to it as a level of concern. They leave it up to the individual states, and I believe every state and territory has adopted that number. So how small is 5 micrograms? So if you remember from school, a micro means 1/1,000,000th. So in this case, it's 1/1,000,000th of a gram. So if you take a penny that weighs 2 grams and you cut it into 2 million pieces and you separate and you pull out 5, that's all it takes. So 5 micrograms per deciliter is a lead poisoned child. And CDC, again, they're through their guidance at the federal level, they kind of set that. And then ODH, that's the Ohio Department of Health. They control licensures for lead professionals in Ohio, for the trainings as well. When I do a training, I could have a monitor from the Ohio Department of Health come in and watch the training, make sure I'm following the rules and that I'm giving proper information. They also will do the investigation for lead poison a child. How do we know if a child's lead poison? Well, it's through blood work. In your pre-assessment, I think it was one of the questions. It's the only way to find out if there's any lead in the body is through blood work. Is every child required to have blood testing done? No, unfortunately. Medicaid has a requirement up to 6 years of age. But Medicaid's requirement is at 12 months and 24 months. They have to have a blood lead level test. And the Ohio Department of Health, on their website, they have what they call high-risk zip codes. Children, no matter what their income, if they live in these high-risk zip codes, then doctors are supposed to do blood work at 12 months and 24 months. There's no record of them having blood work, let's say at age 5. Then they're still supposed to have it up until 72 months. The Head Start, I believe, has they have a rule also. Children have to have their blood levels tested. And there's some school districts in the state, when a child's going into kindergarten, Cleveland, the city of Cleveland, they require that as part of their like shot records and all that to take in. They also have to show, and it's a simple capillary test. That's that one where they just prick their fingers or their heels on their feet. But if it comes back, if the results come back as 5 micrograms or greater, then they have to actually take a draw out of their veins, and that can be pretty rough for a little kid. Their arms. I know adults don't like it. I know I don't. Their arms are pretty small, so it can be pretty trying. But the Ohio Department of Health, if a child's blood level comes back at 5 micrograms or greater, by law, that doctor has to send that information to ODH, and they will send out. It's kind of like a CSI unit. They have to find out what is causing this poisoning with this child. So they have right to enter. They don't come into the place like they're raiding it. They'll call ahead and they'll set up an appointment, and they'll talk to the parents. And then when they come in, they'll inspect the house. They're looking for lead hazards.
I know our area was really high with lead, and I contracted with Head Start for like 8 years, and I actually drove kids to get that test because our area was so high with the lead.
Yeah, some areas, some health departments are very proactive, and they actually will send their mobile labs to daycares and Head Starts to do it right on site, right in the parking lot almost. That's all I have, Mindy, for the slide.
Okay. Yeah. So he brought up some great points, and I even went to the Head Start site and I pulled some information and everything, because they are a lead agency in any of our communities where they, we as far as training goes, as far as getting the information out there. So I pulled from them, and Ohio Department of Health, obviously. I'm going to be sharing the blood lead testing requirements that came there in a link. But for right now, I'm going to show everybody, since we're here, and we're going to go back, because I think videos are online. We can be online. But I'm going to share this document, and this is probably it's the newest document. This came out can everybody see it? It says Ready, Set, Soar, Ohio. So this document came out in last year, February 2020. And there's a couple, I'm going to reduce this so I can see it. There's a couple different pages that I want you to see, but Billy Osborne, she is up at Starting Point in Cleveland, and one of the is a very powerful statement. She said it's unacceptable that in 2020 we can continue to have children living and learning in environments where they are exposed to lead paint hazards, undermining their health, education, and foundation for all future lifelong success inside the places that were quite literally built to keep them safe and support their growth. And she's talking about referring to childcare centers, but also our homes. And, we really need to go back to this again. It's not okay that our elevated blood levels are more than twice the national rate. And what's going on? And there shouldn't be any lead in children. But if we look at the lead poisoning's impact on young children, you can read it along with me, but lead poisoning can affect nearly every system in the body. It is especially harmful to children in their first 5 years because it's disrupting rapid brain development and growth that their body and their brain is undergoing. And there is no safe level of lead in a body. And, Kevin was referring to the micrograms per deciliter of blood. It damages the brain and nervous system, slowed growth and development, speech and hearing, learning disabilities. If you look, you can even look at the state of Ohio where there's high lead exposure. And I'm not sure where everybody's from. I'm here in Tuscarawas County, but this is our region. We're 31 counties? And
I'm from Ohio.
Yeah. So here we are. But if you look at
Athens
in the
county, I guess.
Athens, yeah, that's fine. No, that's fine. So down in Athens, there's like moderate. But if you look at Meigs County, the surrounding counties, it is it's very high. It's very high. And it's concerning. Some of these other statistics, 3.7 million Ohio households contain lead-based paint. I know my house does. And I think, I've really watched for chipping, and I've painted over surfaces. But, it's, again, 1926. Are there surfaces that have not been renovated? Absolutely.
I know the
If you
house
look-
I live in is old, but it was already done.
So it was renovated already.
Mhm.
I would like to
He
point out
says
where
all new drywall.
Oh,
I'd like
That's-
to point out something that can be misleading almost. We keep saying lead-based paint, but it could be in any coatings.
right.
It could be in stains, shellacs, varnishes, so hardwood floors, stained older stairs, built-ins, any component that has some kind of a coating on it has the potential. Depending on the age of the home, like Mindy was saying, it has a greater potential the older it is.
Mhm. Thank you, Kevin. If you look at this graph that we have on, you're looking at Cuyahoga County, and unfortunately, this document really focused on Cuyahoga County because it is the highest. But Kevin and I were talking about this the other day, and we're looking at 5.7, whereas Cuyahoga, is what, 4 times that amount, 5 times that amount. Kevin, can you explain why Appalachia is showing so low as far as
Well,
0 to 5?
Cuyahoga County,
Mhm.
yeah, Cuyahoga County in particular, they test more. They had a mayor in the early 70s that was very proactive. In fact, he even testified in Congress to the point that they put a HUD kind of regional research building in the Cleveland area. So Cleveland tests more kids. Like I was saying, the Cleveland school board, and I think all the schools in Cuyahoga County, for a kid to come in kindergarten to enroll, they have to have a blood lead level test. Whereas that's not required, as far as I know, in any other school district. Some areas, like Athens County, it depends on who's in charge, what their focus is, what their funding is. They may not have the funding. I know Athens County, I shouldn't say I know, but I believe Athens County does not have a lead risk assessor on
Yeah.
staff. Whereas Cuyahoga County probably has a dozen. Franklin County, the Columbus Franklin County Health Department, they have a whole division.
We need one
dedicated
because
to
we
it.
have a lot of old houses and
Yeah, and I know they're busy with other things that is very impactful health-wise, public health-wise, but
yeah.
lead is the dirty secret. Even many of our health professionals allow it to fly under their radar.
Mhm. Yes. It's kind of amazing. It's a 52-page document, but it's really a lot of reading because there are so many graphs and everything. Really, Groundwork Ohio is the advocacy group for early childhood educators in the state of Ohio. And if you are looking, to be current, you can subscribe to their newsletters and they will really keep you in the know. But, we're all advocates for children's health and we want children to grow and thrive. And we don't want them to be delayed in any way, shape, or form. And we want them to be ready for their next steps, whatever that might be, whether it's, turning 2, turning 3, going to a preschool, going into a school system. We want to do the best that we can to help all children, especially, just all children, because I believe that, we have a heart for that. That's why we do what we do. We want them all to be healthy and successful. And when you hear these devastating stories about children that are delayed because of lead paint, and again, we've had this awareness for eons. And we really did some proactive steps 50 years ago, but it's still happening. And we need to get the word out that, that we can be safe and we can do renovations and we can help children to be safe. Oh, I had a participant jump on here. I need to check it out. Not sure. Okay. Anyway, at this point, it is 7:30. Let's take a little bit of a break. I know we've only gotten through a few screens, but